It's so hard to help others when you are the one that's being impacted as well. You've lost internet access, you've lost your home, maybe your family members have been impacted, but you have to get up and put your pants on and go to work every day and help get things right again.
Connectivity is great, but if it's not being protected adequately, then it really is just a vulnerability.
We're all going to have our own robots. Well, no, we're not going to all have our own robots.
I do want my own robot.
As long as they start with laundry and dishes.
It doesn't need to make art and music. It needs to do my dishes.
Laundry
Yeah.
and dishes. Excellent. I'm so happy to welcome my new friend Tracy from North Carolina. She's joining Rick and I to talk today about MCNC.
MCNC.
You
were
tried
so close.
So hard
You
to
were
get
so
to get that.
very close.
Acronyms in the telecom industry, it's just one of those things.
It is.
They all make total sense and stick in my head the very first time. Such a waste of my brain space that I can't make that stick.
YAA. Yet another acronym.
YAA? Oh no, make it stop. Tracy, tell us more about what you guys are doing.
So, today, we are responsible for about 4,500 miles of fiber infrastructure across the state of North Carolina. We run the Research and Education Network for K through 12, all of higher ed, public, most of higher ed, independent colleges and universities, and all of the community colleges across North Carolina.
That's amazing.
In addition, we run the Telehealth Network for North Carolina, and we support state governments, local governments.
Wow, and telehealth has really had a huge transition in the last 6 to 8 years. In all kinds of different ways, but it's definitely during the pandemic, being able to access that feature, that service through the internet has been huge.
It has. And so our responsibility is for the providers, not for the patients.
Right.
Oh, exactly.
Right. And so that's why it's so important with BEAD and things like that when we talk about connectivity for residents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fine for us to provide it for providers, but it doesn't help them as much if their patients don't have access to it either.
Yep.
Same thing for education.
Story. Yeah.
Same thing for education. The students need the same kind
Sure.
of access, but we still take pride, of course, in supporting and connecting our community anchor institutions across the state. So we probably have 1,100 connections in that regard.
Now, North Carolina was really heavily impacted by Hurricane Helene.
Yes.
What impact did that have to your service delivery model?
It was pretty extensive. So as I mentioned, we have 4,500 miles of fiber infrastructure. We do have a good portion of that in the western part of the state, but not just ours, but we rely on those regional providers to connect.
Sure.
Right? To some of those school districts or
Absolutely.
those colleges and universities.
And I would imagine with that terrain and that area, a lot of it's aerial, so I'm sure there was a lot to do.
Well, we had aerial and underground, both
Wiped out.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Wiped out.
Completely.
Because the whole segments were like wiped off
Oh,
of mountains
yes.
and
Yes.
roadways and
It was. I've been there twice since Helene, and I'm going back next week to meet with some community leaders. And it's really been a struggle for them to get back.
and it's already been over a year at this point. I mean, it's
I guess October.
it's getting close.
September,
Yeah.
October. It is getting
Yeah.
really close. So for us, we've built out obviously our temporary solutions and working on our permanent ones. But what's been really important for us too is helping our regional providers and others that need our help, because we have, technology and infrastructure that we can share with others. And so I think we really did pride ourselves on being able to do that.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and even for our staff, I will say it was pretty catastrophic.
It's so hard to help others when you are the one that's being impacted as well. And you've lost internet access, you've lost your home, you've lost, maybe your family members have been impacted, but you have to get up and put your pants on and go to work every day and help get things right again.
Right. But
Yeah.
a lot of our staff are in the middle part of the
Right.
state. So we weren't, we didn't have the loss of homes and things like that, like the actual people that lived in that region
The
did. And
direct
so
impact.
it was easier for us to travel into those regions to the extent that we
That
could.
you could, yeah.
Right, since the roads were washed out and all of that. But our teams saw some pretty horrific things when they were able to travel into the region.
So how long have you been working with the company? And tell me a little bit about how y'all got started.
So I've been with MCNC for 5 years. Although I've known about MCNC for many years before that.
You would think I would have gotten that. MCNC, MCNC. It just didn't stick.
No, and
I,
that's
tried to throw an E in there.
well, Microelectronics Center of North Carolina. There's a couple of E's in there.
There we go. I'm
I'll
redeemed.
let you have that.
She's going to give me a hall pass.
Everyone needs one. Everyone needs one. But I was the state CIO for North Carolina and the deputy state CIO for North Carolina. So the state government network relied on MCNC. So I was very familiar.
You knew who they were. You'd
Who
worked
they
with them.
were, what they did. I was on their advisory council for several years. MCNC has been around for 45 years. We have our 45th anniversary this year, actually. You are welcome to attend our community day
I love it.
in Raleigh because that's where we will
You
celebrate.
should be afraid because I like to show up random places. So
Please. We would love that. We
Like
would,
Spring George.
yeah, bring George for the community days. Exactly.
yeah, definitely. So we started out as that microelectronics center through a governor at the time that was trying to build a place where other big companies would want to come.
Oh, I see.
So MCNC was funded by the legislature at that time
Okay.
and this governor's brainchild to create Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. So it pulled in Cisco and IBM and some of those big players, but it was originally designed as this supercomputing center for researchers in higher ed. So that's where it was. And over the years, it has expanded, probably less about supercomputing.
Sure.
Still advanced technology like AI and quantum. So we provide those kinds of infrastructures for higher ed. But our big focus, of course, is connectivity first and then cybersecurity. So we have cybersecurity services that sit on top of our network.
And cybersecurity is so important, and it's an ever evolving portion of this whole industry. You've got to stay ahead of the threats. You've got to stay ahead of what's the next thing.
That's true. That's true. And education and healthcare are especially vulnerable to threat actors. We saw a lot of that during
We've
COVID.
seen entire hospitals shut down.
Yes.
And there was one I believe in Dallas County that was shut down for 7 to 10 days. They could not access their medical records. I mean, it's just horrific.
It has been. It has been. I don't know if you're familiar with Power School. That's like a big, they had a huge breach and ransomware attack, which was very unfortunate across the country.
But it's great to hear that you offer that as a compliment. I mean, the connectivity is great, but if it's not being protected adequately, then it really is just a vulnerability. So I think that makes sense if the state is going to rally around this kind of resource. It just makes sense.
It does. And we're fee for service now. So we don't get our funding from state government.
Okay, I was curious about that as well.
Yes, we are fee for service. So we provide a service to all of our clients. And now they may get their funding from the government or federal government or their own clients to pay us for our services. But you're right. The protected connectivity is important because if you can't access the network because of cybersecurity issues, then we're really not providing what you need there.
For sure. And speaking of acronyms, I'm going to use one that I've heard a couple of times over the course of today. Where does BEAD fit in to all of this?
Yes. BEAD.
A loaded question, perhaps?
I mean, yes and no, right? And so MCNC applied for the middle mile funding when it was available, right? The $1 billion that was available. We were the only company in North Carolina that was awarded the middle mile funding at all. And it was about $11 million from NTIA. And then we provided another $9 million to build out additional 200 miles of middle mile to connect more community anchor institutions, but it was also in preparation for BEAD. So we have an open network.
Okay.
So the idea was we provide this to MCNC. It's an open network. Last mile providers get the BEAD funding and they can build off of our network.
So hurry up and wait. If you build it,
we would hope they would come.
Can we build it yet?
can they fund it yet?
Yeah.
Right. We built our portion, right? And we immediately got bites from other regional providers who were very interested. Okay, we would like to make sure that we're in line to lease, some of your fiber to build out. So,
but are you finding that a lot or the majority have waited? Like, obviously there's been this sort of snooze button situation with the whole program for a while, but correct me if I'm wrong, if someone wanted to approach you and they had funding otherwise, they would have access to your middle mile
of
today.
course, they do that all the time.
Okay.
We allow for that today. So we sell fiber to others, lease it to others all the time so that they are able to provide last mile.
Are you finding a lot of people are waiting still, or are people's patience running out? Are they finding private funding? Like, are you seeing any kind of change in strategy over time?
And so that's an interesting question. So I think for some who can not afford to wait, meaning that they have funding from elsewhere,
and they've got to repay, they've got other obligations to other investors.
Exactly.
The show must go on.
Right. That's a big issue. So we're seeing a lot of that, particularly the last year and a half, where they're still. I think we've seen a real uptick in that over the last year and a half. I think the difficulty with state broadband offices right now is the interpretation. What does this mean? If fiber is not the priority, or is it the priority? What does this really mean for
big curveball?
I beg your pardon?
Big curveball.
Yes.
Yep.
And what measure is first to market play when you can have multiple players in the arena, but you've got people that are going to have to pay catch up because they've waited for some funding.
Right.
What impact will that have to those end users and to the providers that you guys are serving?
Yes. And in North Carolina, we just have such a large rural population across the state. And so that's the thing that worries me the most, are those communities that have been waiting, and they may continue to wait, and that affects their ability for economic development.
Absolutely.
For more companies to come in and see thriving communities that have healthcare, education, ability to apply for jobs. Well, when they don't have that, then they won't be able to play, right? They won't be able to play in the game. And then they start to lose their younger people because they also don't see a chance.
Because they can't really work from home. They can't access their education. My daughter is she's finalizing her college education completely online. Her university is 300 miles away, and she is finishing her classes virtually. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
She's been able to save money, which she's putting aside to be able to buy a house and things like that. I think it's going to change the fundamental way that people think about higher education when they can continue in a virtual classroom environment successfully. Not for everybody, but for those that really need it for whatever reason. Maybe she needed to work on the farm. She doesn't, because we live in Fort Worth, Texas, but that's a reality. Maybe some people need to be somewhere else other than where they're getting their education.
Right. And that's very significant. Although I will say there's a fear factor in some of those communities where they maybe don't want their kids to get that kind of education because they may automatically leave. Because there's no jobs there.
Isn't that interesting?
It is, but you see that a lot. So
we've talked about overcoming fear multiple times in our sessions.
Theme.
It's a recurring theme,
Yeah.
and it's a fear of technology. It's a fear of advancement. I mean, to me, the biggest fear that's out there behind cybersecurity is AI. Is AI going to replace me? Is AI going to take over the world? I don't know about AI. How am I going to learn about AI?
It's the fear of the unknown.
It's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And what is AI going to look like 5 years from now? I don't think any of us actually know, but we envision a world that XYZ is going to be happening. We're all going to have our own robots. Well, no, we're not going to all have our own robots.
I do want my own robot.
As long as they start with laundry and dishes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't need to make art and music.
No.
It needs to do my
Laundry
dishes. Yeah,
and dishes.
Yes, and some dusting.
dusting's a good one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a
And
real
so
good one.
the
That's
work-
repetitive.
it is. It is.
It can be automated.
done.
I like it.
Yes. So we do provide AI infrastructure, for example, for researchers.
Okay.
And so we have some NSF funding currently for a pilot for GPUs. So GPUs as a service. So yeah, we will see more and more of that happen.
Quantum.
Is another big one where we've had a university reach out and ask us, hey, would you build a quantum test bed
No
for
kidding.
us? And so, we started at computing, but it's almost like getting back to our roots a bit.
Time is a circle, right?
It is.
So are you pursuing that, or is there funding, or do you have a quantum lab? That's very interesting.
So we do have the funding for the pilot. So that is a pilot with Duke University. I think North Carolina A&T, UNC Chapel Hill, and I believe NC State is also a part of the AI.
Fantastic.
Yes. And so the quantum one is really based on North Carolina State University, where they came to us. And let me just mention, that's my alma mater, engineering grad from NC State. You cannot say anything bad about my school, or I would just get up and walk out. But so they are actually applying for funding, where we will. I'll probably be a co-PI on that one, just like I have been for the AI. GPU as a service one, but we'll see that continue to advance. And I mean, I think at this point, we're waiting for the intersection between AI and quantum, which may make GPUs a little more,
Yeah, sure.
the footprint may get a little smaller than
More
55
efficient,
football.
more attainable.
So I'm going to hand you
Yeah.
the magic 8 ball. When do you think that's going to happen? Do you think this is a near or a far opportunity?
Good question.
AI is certainly near, right? We're all talking about, it's been around a long time, long before.
Right.
Longer than most people understand.
Realize.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? That's why Netflix knows what I want to watch.
It's been
yes,
knowing
that's
that.
AI.
Yes, it's been knowing that for a long time. Quantum is a little slower because it's a lot more complicated and complex, but other countries are using it to crack cryptography
Yep.
for cybersecurity. So there are other countries that are using it in ways that are pretty nefarious. So we've got to catch up.
We've got to catch up. What impacts do you think this is going to have to the energy infrastructures and how we're going to be able to meet the demands of the data centers and the GPUs and all the things that we've got to light up to make it all work?
And that's my hope around the intersection between quantum and AI. So it lessens that demand.
The efficiency goes up.
Yeah.
It does.
But then
It
in that
does.
hockey stick fashion. That
Yep.
This is what we're doing. And we found it. We
It's
found it.
point
and
of
away we
inflection
go.
where it becomes commercially viable and you can operate at scale. And
Right.
yeah.
Right. And so even for us right now, we have been touring additional data centers because we realize we're outgrowing the one that we have.
Mhm.
So we do a lot of co-location, but we're seeing the need for expansion because others are asking, hey, we'd like to move our data center into your data center. What would that look like? And so there's also this discussion about more and more AI and building AI hubs across the state.
I had somebody tell me the other day
Us
that
being one of them.
they felt like as the malls across America are being vacated, that's the natural repurposing of those footprints as data centers.
That's a great idea.
And I'm like, wow. You could have offices to the sides of these buildings and the brains in the middle.
Right.
Wouldn't that be absolutely
compelling.
amazing? It is compelling. And I drive around the country a lot and I see empty malls after empty mall after empty mall. I'm like,
And their power structures probably could be upgraded to, 3 megawatts to 6 megawatts, which is what's really required when you're
to
doing
be able to pull that.
work like that.
It's fascinating. It's thinking about the future and thinking about how far we've come in such a short period of time is absolutely fascinating.
It is. It really, really is. And imagine 5 years from now. What's the new thing we're going to be talking about now? And AI will be It'll continue because it's been around a long time.
Right, but it'll be old hat.
It will be old hat. I was
Yep.
going to use the exact same
There'll be
term.
new technology that somebody's going to be afraid of the next time.
But technology, people were afraid. Remember computers? And
Computers were people. Computers were people. They computed things, and people forget that. We forget what our roots are,
Right.
and how far we've come in a relatively small amount of time.
Right, but it's history.
Exactly.
Right? It's not. You may not have the same job, but you'll have a new job or another job that might be different that you need to be trained for.
And just making sure that we aren't expanding the digital divide faster than we're bridging it is going to be very important. We have to keep an eye on making sure that we're not leaving communities behind, and we're not leaving those rural communities behind, or socioeconomically dividing people into the, I understand how to leverage AI, I don't. Because I know what AI has done for me personally and in my business life to free up my time to do other things, next level things. We don't want to leave other people behind in all of this.
We don't. And that's what worries me so much about rural communities. And so in North Carolina, furniture making was like one of the top economic, one of the big products that came out of North Carolina. And so when all of that left and went overseas, you still have communities and small towns that have not recovered from that.
It's like the mining communities used to be, right?
Yes.
That was the economy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I come from a really small town in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, and we had this manufacturing plant where everyone worked.
Yeah.
Everyone worked. They made polypropylene for tires. That went overseas to China, and that little town has yet to recover from that and became the opioid capital at one time for Virginia.
That is a very common tie-in. Again, thinking back to the mining communities and yes. So when you leave that void, it's easy for something to come in and fill it. How do we get ahead of that curve to fill it with something positive?
Right.
Maybe this is
that
opportunity.
Is it teaching fiber splicing? Is it teaching how to be a tier 2, tier 3 tech support, because you can leverage AI from your home and you don't have to move to Raleigh or to a bigger city. You can do this from home because you've got the technology.
But the foundation of that is connectivity.
100%.
None of this can happen without
100%.
None of this can happen without that. And so the fear of the BEAD funding not coming through is what we all need to be concerned about, and start to build real contingency plans around, okay, venture capitalists, investors.
We've got to figure out how to collaborate more effectively and efficiently, no matter where the money's coming from. We cannot be afraid to have a mixture of public and private funding, because you can find success in that crossroad.
We'll have to.
Whether
BEAD funding is here or not. I was at a conference a week or so ago and did a keynote about that very thing, about the federal funding, and it's not evenly distributed. And we're going to have places where they just won't get it, regardless of what happens. And so we as a collective are going to have to do the very thing you're talking about in order to ensure that people aren't left behind, that they have the same opportunity as anybody else to be great. Right? And to have the developers come to their towns to where they can have thriving communities and jobs and all of those things.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to ask our new friend from North Carolina?
I kind of want to double back to the quantum thing, but I won't do that. It's just it's amazing to think, and we're speculating about what's next. I think that really could be next, and I think your point is absolutely right. That point of inflection is what will make or break that in terms of broad viability, broad accessibility. But in terms of, kind of that next X factor that has the opportunity to change the world, change the way we work, change the way we think, that is absolutely it. And like you had said, sadly, a lot of the times, sometimes it is this kind of underbelly, this nefarious things that push technology. So like you said, that's in the cybersecurity world, creating this, as cybersecurity and security in general has always been, it's a game of cat and mouse, right?
It is.
So you have no choice but to
build a better
bravely
mousetrap.
Go into that, yes, and make sure that you're not going to be vulnerable. So as much as we wish these things weren't, they do have a practical way of advancing these things that ultimately are going to have a positive impact. So I'm kind of hoping that is the next big thing. And to your point, it's all additive. It's the computing from way back when you were founded, and it's the connectivity that makes sure that everything can talk to each other. And then it's the AI powering it, and then it's the quantum actually doing the crunching. Like, it's all of these coming together that will unlock whatever's behind that next door. And that's what's so exciting about this. We don't know what that is. We don't know when we get to see it, but it is coming.
Well, and we do have the beauty of competition and ego. And so what I also hope is that, for our country, we'll see that and go, what?
They're doing what? No.
Is doing what?
It's a good motivator.
Right. It is
Oh,
a
yeah.
good motivator.
You bet.
And you'll see a lot
As
more
well it should
investment, right? You'll see a lot more investment just for that.
Yeah.
More so than, other reasons.
Yep.
It's like, well, this country is, breaking, cryptography codes in ways that we can't. Well, no,
and we barely scratched the surface. Yeah,
right.
no, we can't have that.
Right. And all of these big AI companies that
it's
have
the
come
moon
out.
race of the 21st century.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Who's
is.
going to get there first and plant that flag?
Yeah. And even if you get there second, right, it's still a good place to be.
Absolutely.
You got to get there.
Yeah. You just have
Yeah.
to get there. And I do hope everybody gets motivated for whatever reason to advance technology, because I'm a huge, huge fan of using technology in the right places for the right things with all the people to make.
And technology is not going to replace people. It's just
No.
not. There's too many nuances to who we are and what we do and how we respond to things. I think we're all going to be leveling up, and I'm very excited about the future.
I am too. Leveling up is a great way of looking at it. And for me personally, I love that idea. I love leveling up. I love learning more.
And lifting while we climb is part of that too. We're not just all climbing individually. We're
That's correct.
all coming up together.
And that's what you want to see for your communities, right? And with this being a state level initiative,
Yes.
and something that is rooted in the communities, and you're seeing the people come together. And like you said, for those that were, affected less, they were able to come together and help those that were in, their time of need. This is all rooted in community, and that leveling up is what this essentially catalyzes. So it's a really, really, really meaningful program. And
It is, which is
cool to learn
why
about it.
I'm at MCNC. This is what I love the most about what we do. And being a private nonprofit gives us a lot more flexibility than others to be able to do things quicker, a lot more agility than previous places that I have been. And so that is the thing I love about MCNC and the way that we can help our communities and the way that we do every single day.
I asked my kids the other day, I said, if somebody asked you to describe what I do for a living, what would you say? And they both looked at me like this. And then one of them was like, well, you tell people you change the world. I was like, that's it. That's what we're doing. We play a little bitty cog in this great big wheel, and every day we get to get up and change the world.
We do, and we can't lose sight of that.
Right.
In a world that is seems a bit chaotic right now, we can't lose sight of the ways that we make a difference every day. And I tell that to my staff all the time. I know it seems hectic, and I know it's stressful because of that.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the role that we play, where people stay more informed by having connectivity and get better jobs by having connectivity, healthcare,
Doctors.
It's very
doctors,
real.
all of those things. So we still play a huge part in that. It's not that we're not doing anything in a world that's so big and so unpredictable right now. Our work is, and we need to continue doing that.
Very important.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon.
Of
This has been
course.
absolutely enlightening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this immensely.
Thank you so much.